All right, let's talk about how to sew your beautiful shibori. Now that you have opened it up, you've revealed your design, now you're gonna get to sew this together into your pillow. You should have a front piece and a back piece, and they are going to have to get pinned together. Each table is going to have a sewing kit with quite a few things in it that you are going to need, but you're not gonna need all of it today, so let's talk about what you will need. The first thing you're gonna need are some pins, and this is so that you can pin together your fabric. The next thing you're gonna need is some thread, and you're gonna notice that this thread is really thick. That's because this is called embroidery floss. On your thread, you're gonna notice there are these little sort of cutouts on the spool. That is for you to park your thread in. So once you're done taking out what you need, you can slide the end of the thread through that, and that way it won't move around or get tangled up with other things. So you are gonna be needing that, and then you're also gonna need a needle for when you're ready to sew, but for right now, let's just focus on the pins. So first thing you need to do is you need to choose how you want your design to go, whichever orientation. Remember, these are going to be getting turned inside out, so whichever is on the inside will be on the outside when you are done. It also does not matter if your edges don't perfectly line up, because they will all straighten out in the end. Don't worry about that. Just get them generally lined up together, stacking one on top of the other. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your pins and you're going to secure it all along just 3 sides. Leave one side open, that's where all the stuffing's gonna go. So to secure my pins, I'm gonna push my pin in through both pieces of my fabric, and then I'm gonna push it out the other side, so that way it lays nice and flat. Can you see my pin in there? I'll do that again up close so that way you can see. I like to put at least 2 pins per side, and I want them to be nice and close to the edge. So I'm gonna take my pin, I'm gonna push it in my fabric, it's going all the way through to the back, and then I'm going to push it out the other side, and it should lay nice and flat like this. Nobody should have any dagger pins sticking out at you. So I'm gonna pin all the way around, nice and close to the edge. And as you're sewing, you'll be able to take these pins out as you go, but these really are kind of like just temporary, just to hold things in place, just to prepare for you to sew. Push it in, push it out. And notice this guy is still left wide open. There's only pins on this side, and this side. All right, I've got my needle all threaded. I have a nice double knot here on the end to help things from sliding through. My pins are in place. I am now ready to use my running stitch. So to do your running stitch, my friends, you are gonna start at one corner of your fabric. And I'm actually gonna move this pin over because I noticed he's a little bit in my way. And you want to get as close to the edge as you can, so that way your pillow is as big as possible. You also want to make sure you're paying attention that you're trying to sew as straight as you can, so you can get a nice clean line. And what I'm going to do here at the corner of my fabric is I'm just going to push up from the bottom, push my needle all the way through, and pull just like this. My knot should catch right down here on the end. And then I'm just going to do my running stitch. So I push in, push out, and pull just like that. And when you pull, you're gonna see that you've got a nice little running stitch there left behind. So I'm gonna do my best to go as straight as I can, push in, push out, and pull. You wanna keep those stitches nice and small and close together. If your stitch is this big, all your stuffing is gonna come flying out of there. So you want them nice and small, as close together as you can. And since I sewed past that pin already, I can go ahead and take that guy out because he's no longer needed. Now I'm just gonna sew around all the edges. One thing you'll notice that I like to do is I almost leave my needle still. I'll hold my needle and I'll take my fingers and I will push the fabric onto my needle, and I find that that makes it a little bit easier. And just periodically I can straighten this thing out, make sure that I'm not pulling too tightly and that these stitches are nice and big. All right, friends, so I just got to the corner of my fabric right here, and all I'm gonna do is just turn my fabric and just keep on sewing the other way. Always making sure that you're sewing those 2 pieces of fabric together. If they're not being sewn together, it's not doing anything. All right, friends, so I'm running a little bit low on string. I only have maybe about 5 or 6 inches left, and you really want to make sure that you tie your knot with your needle still attached. It makes things a lot easier. So before I cut my needle off, I'm gonna need to tie a knot here so I can get some more string. So to do that, I'm gonna bring this up so it's a little easier to see. To do that, I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna slide it underneath my last stitch. So see how my needle is sliding underneath that last stitch? So I'll take my needle, I'll slide it under my last stitch, just like that, and you'll see that when I do that, I create this loop right here. I create a loop. I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna pull it right through that loop, just like that, to create a knot. And I'm gonna do that one more time so that way I've got a nice double knot underneath. Pull it through, give it a little tug, and now I can cut my string off, reload my needle, and that way I can sew all the way around the edges.